Get started. So welcome again, everyone. My name is Ellen Doobie. I am the Admissions Outreach and Events Coordinator here at the Vermont Law and Graduate School. Today, I am joined by two of my colleagues here in admissions, Shirley Crawford, if you want to give a little wave, as well as Jordan Cooper, also in the admissions team here. And we are also lucky to be joined by 5 of our student ambassadors. We'll hear from them in a little bit, but if you guys all want to give a wave now, we are joined by Nate Spurl, Javana Perez, Isaiah Gonzalez, Liliana Segura, and Camille King. So definitely excited to have all of our student ambassadors on today. We'll hear from them in a little bit. But first, we'll take it into what we are going to be doing for our agenda today. Just gonna move my screen here. So today's agenda, what we're gonna take you through to help you kind of get a better feel for life in Vermont, what life is like here in our tiny town of South Royalton, Vermont. I will do an overview of a few things about Vermont that are helpful to know, especially if you are looking to visit Vermont, check out our campus before you're applying, or in order to help you if you're an admitted student make a decision. So we'll go through a couple of those logistics. And then we're going to move into our student panelists. They're each going to share part of their stories of coming to Vermont and what their experience here on campus has been like. And then we will wrap up before questions, before we go into a Q&A session. I will show you a couple slides of what the housing portal looks like. That is always a key question for our off-campus housing, kind of what life will look like in your housing experience while you are a student here at the Vermont Law and Graduate School. So that is a little bit of what our agenda will be looking like today. And I will start by moving on to our first slide here. When we go into the Visiting Vermont experience, so I mentioned my name is Ellen, and I handle all of the campus tours coming to our campus. So definitely that is kind of that having my information there, as well as the location on our website where you can sign up for a campus visit is really key, because that is the best way to access the calendar, the current Calendly calendar, to see what date you'd like to come to campus for a visit. We do campus tours, as well as if you wanted to sit in on a class or meet with someone from admissions or other students. Those are all part of that campus visit that we craft for you. A lot of times you're alone for your campus visit, but sometimes you are with other admitted or prospective students if they're visiting on the same day. So the picture that you have on screen right now, just to give you a total kind of reference point, Vermont is one of the 6 New England states. New York is our neighboring state as well. But on the map here, the star is where South Royalton is located in central Vermont. A couple of things to note: Boston is about a 3-hour drive away. A lot of times people fly into Boston and then rent a car and drive up to our area. The other airport in Burlington, Vermont is another popular spot for people to fly into in order to come down to visit our campus in South Royalton. Burlington is about an hour and 20 minutes or so away from campus. Burlington is the triangle on the map, and then the circle on the map is where our state capital is located, Montpelier, Vermont, about 50 minutes north of where we are. So we'll get into a lot more. We'll kind of hone in on the actual town of South Royalton in a moment, but this was just kind of that first perspective of where we are located. The other thing to note here, vermontvacation.com is the state resource guide. It's definitely a place to check out before you visit. It gives all kinds of, depending on the season and activities and things that you're looking for, to give you kind of what life could be like in Vermont. It's a great resource to take a look at. So moving on to the I'm going to share just 5 things that are my favorite, kind of 5 themes that I think you guys are going to see today when you hear from each of our students. These 5 themes I think you're going to see carried throughout, and I think they're going to be kind of very important to you in the culture that you're going to experience if you were a student on campus. The first kind of theme that we're going to see people talking about is our landscape in Vermont. One of my favorite kind of things when we think about the experiences that you'll have either looking out your window of your car, whether you're looking out the window of your apartment or getting out into the mountains, hiking and having that experience. The mountains, lakes, experiences you're going to have in our forests are really special, and it's neat to see that our state is really adamant on making sure that this perspective is seen for anyone who is visiting Vermont. We were the first state to ban billboards. So in our state, you can't have any billboards anywhere, and that's really kind of that idea of being able to see the scenery and the landscape in its fullest. So I think that kind of plays into a little bit of that culture that you're going to be seeing here while you have your life in Vermont. Our second theme that you're definitely going to hear from our students about today is our community. A few of the pictures here, whether that's going to First Branch Coffee or Barrister's Bookstore for a maple latte, a coffee, joining another student, visiting downtown or tiny South Royalton, the food co-op, our Carlita's restaurant is pictured here, and then students enjoying some of our winter outdoor activities. But this community is definitely a theme that you're going to see when you're looking at South Royalton, Vermont, our small town of only about 600 people here. That community is so important with the students you're going to be having experiences with for your years here in South Royalton, but the faculty and the staff, all of that community is really helpful in making your transition to our state really, really important for you. The other thing that we do have here is that community of an alumni network. We have about 9,000 alumni all across the US that will definitely become part of your community as well. One of the other themes here is balance. We definitely want to make sure that you are experiencing, you're going to be studying a lot in our library and Barrister's Bookstore, outside. But finding that balance is really key. We have a gym on campus that offers Pilates and yoga. So there's definitely ways to kind of find that balance, but you'll definitely hear from our students on ways that they're able to utilize things in South Royalton in campus as well to find that balance. And then support is another really key element that you're going to be having here while you're on campus, whether that's from your students, faculty in our small community, or the support you're going to receive from our academic success program, which offers mentor coaches, the support you're going to be receiving from our career services, as well as our alumni network. All of that support really goes into that why you're coming and choosing Vermont Law and Graduate School in a small community, rural atmosphere. That support is going to become a key theme for you as well. And then the last theme before I turn it over to our students, I really think that heart is kind of that theme that we talk about here, that you are definitely going to fall in love with Vermont while your time here on campus. But the heart and commitment of your students, the compassion and passion they have for the projects that they're working on is definitely something will resonate with you for your experience here. And the lifelong friends and connections that you're going to have are really key. So I would say that that's another kind of great theme you're going to hear about. And you might even start to fall in love with winter in Vermont if that's anything that you're apprehensive about. We have our students here to tell us a little bit more about that too. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to our first student. So Nate, I'm going to turn it over to you, and we'll definitely want to hear about this picture, where you are and who you're with.
Yeah, no, thank you so much, Ellen. Hi, everyone. My name is Nate. Like Ellen said, I'm a student ambassador here at VLGS. I'm a 3L. I'm a accelerated JD student here, so that's a 2-year program. In this photo right here, this is me and my dog. We're actually in Bar Harbor, Maine, which is about, I think, a 5-ish hour drive away from here, depending on where you go. But this was just a hike we did over summer break this past summer, so that was really fun. Um, so yeah, I'm a 3L, but it's my second year here, so that's a little funky with the accelerated program. But in terms of just, I have some general questions that I'm going to run through and answer for you guys about myself here. So firstly, I grew up in Connecticut prior to coming to Vermont, so I'm glad to see some of you in the chat there representing the Constitution state. It's very good. And I went to University of Rhode Island prior to coming here. I lived in Seattle actually too for a little while, and then ended up coming back to Vermont. And it's really nice to kind of be back on the East Coast, and not too far from my family in Connecticut. It's only a 3, 4 hour drive depending on who I'm going to see, so that's really nice. Um, did I visit Vermont before I decided to come to VLGS? I did. I have grown up like skiing and stuff coming up here a lot with my family, and I'd never come to South Royalton. And you'll realize kind of if you end up visiting Vermont or spending some time here, a lot of these small towns are kind of there's just a big spread out of these really cute small little towns that you can kind of discover, and South Royalton is kind of one of those. Um, I've ended up, we kind of spend a lot of time at different ski resorts up here, and I have always been excited to come and check out the campus. So when I checked it out, I think 2 summers ago, it was just a really nice experience. But don't necessarily need to even like visit Vermont or the campus if you don't feel like you need to. It's kind of just one of those nice things to come and see. But that's personal preference. Um, what is my biggest worry about coming to Vermont Law School and starting law school, and what helped me get acclimated since I arrived? I guess my biggest worry was kind of just all of the logistics that come along with not only, starting law school, but moving to a new place. That's obviously just an added layer of hardship whenever you're just moving somewhere and trying to balance all the rest of other things too. And I think utilizing things like the school's housing portal or even local community-based things like maybe Facebook Marketplace to find housing really ended up helping me a lot with that kind of stuff, logistically speaking. As well, having a car up here is really helpful too in kind of making that transition a little better. But if you don't, there are still options to be able to get around. So even though we are really rural, you can kind of, we have, like Ellen mentioned earlier, we have the co-op in town, lots of different restaurants. But having access to just kind of different community resources was really helpful to me, especially in my transition to coming here. And for student groups that I'm involved with, I am actually also one of the co-chairs for the Vermont Law School Outdoors Club. So we do typically kind of events outside of the regular outside activities that we do at Vermont Law School. So we have weekly hikes that will go. That first photo of everyone standing on top of that ledge there is from a hike right next to campus called Kent's Ledge. It's about, I think it's almost 2 miles. It's a nice little vertical. You get a nice workout. It's pretty, but anyone can kind of do it. We like obviously bring our dogs. And there's one in the morning if you're a morning person. They get up bright and early at 6:30. You get to go see sunrise at the top of the mountain. Or if you're like me and you like to have a nicer morning and stay up a little later, I do a dusk patrol where we get to see sunset on a different day. So it's kind of nice. Or you can do, some people do both as well, so they get both ends of the spectrum there. But in terms of that, we also do other trips and things outside of campus. So outside of just doing our weekly hikes, the Outdoors Club, I think you saw some images there of our cross-country ski trip, and those are kind of the staple of the of the club that we do. We end up kind of going to different professors' houses actually after. It's kind of our faculty advisors are really great here too. It's a really nice way to kind of connect with our professors where we'll kind of go and ski with them, and then depending on the professor, sometimes we'll like go to their house after and have a bit of a party as a group, as a club, and have a nice dinner. And that's something I feel like is kind of unique to Vermont Law School, to have that kind of nice connection with your professors on a more personal, cordial level like that is really cool. And being able to also share that experience outside with them is really neat too. In terms of, and then we also just do anything outside too. So different movie nights. It doesn't have to be like physically strenuous. So if you're just looking to get outside, there's kind of just opportunities for everyone. The nice thing about living here in South Royalton, we have the White River right next to campus. So some days if I'm not feeling, I'm tired from class or something and I want to still be outside, I'll go bring my dog, a guitar, bring my textbooks or something down to the river and just kind of hang out and get that outside time without having to hike up a mountain. Um, so in terms of housing as well, when I first moved here, I'm lucky enough to have some family up here, so I was able to kind of live with them and look for housing a little bit more, a little bit later. But you can also, like I said, that housing portal, that they're going to give you information at the end of this is a great, really great resource. That's how I found my current living situation. But again, Facebook Marketplace, just traditional local community resources are really good for that too. The housing situation here is kind of unique, and I personally really like it, but it just depends on who you are. For instance, I live across the street from campus in this really old church that's been renovated into apartments, and it's kind of just really unique. I can go outside and ring the bell of this church that my landlord has set up, and it's just kind of it's one of these places where I'll look back and be like, remember when I lived in this in this church? I don't know, it's just kind of funny. And I know a lot of my friends it's kind of just like cuter, quainter apartments, especially in town. And some students do opt to maybe drive the extra 20, 30 minutes out to Lebanon or to Bethel, Vermont. So maybe like 20, 30 minutes if you want to do the commute, or if you want to live in town, there's that option too, to just walk to class. And when I need a break from studying, where do I go? Yeah, I like to go down, like I said, to the river, maybe between classes. If it's the winter time, I really like to just hang out somewhere on campus, cool. Barrister's Bookshop is beautiful. It's really nice to just sit in there, grab a coffee. Same with all the shops in town if you're looking to get outside of campus. But otherwise, the library is a really nice place to just go and hang out in the winter time. And then in the summer, you'll see um, campus is set up really nicely with a lot of different chairs and benches, and it's very lively outside, which is nice to see. And how often do I leave South Royalton? So I work twice a week outside of town. So I kind of drive to Lebanon, New Hampshire, which is about 30 minutes down the road from here. It's kind of we've got a Target, all the big stores, big shopping stores. If you're trying to get some cheaper groceries, you head over there. It's about 20 minutes down the highway, and I'll work there like twice a week outside of classes, and then afterwards I'll like maybe grab some groceries or something and come back to campus. So it's a nice like routine for me to do that maybe once or twice a week, but it's really up to you. I know a lot of people, there's a lot of really cool, like I said, those little towns in Vermont that if you want a weekend adventure or just someplace to go discover after class, if you have like a half day free or a weekend, it's really fun. There's some really cool places to go and discover. This weekend, for instance, I don't know how I haven't been here, but there's a place called Dog Mountain where you just bring dogs, and it's like a like castle dedicated to dogs. I don't know, it's like the coolest thing ever. So I'm gonna go discover that this weekend with Quinn. So that should be fun. And what is my favorite place on campus or in South Royalton? My favorite place on campus is probably right out front. You've probably seen pictures of the big schoolhouse and like the black sign that says Vermont Law School on it. There's a really nice little lawn out front with some cool trees. I like to set up a blanket and study there during the day, especially in the summer. That's really fun. In the winter, I really like the library. It's fun to look out the window and see the snow coming down at the river and stuff. It's really cool. Um, and and I guess actually my favorite place in South Royalton too is probably First Branch Coffee. Really good coffee. Good stuff. Um, if I have one tip to share about how to be prepared for winter or mud season in Vermont, I would say for winter, don't overthink it too much. It can be a little daunting, especially if you don't come, from a place where it snows this much or just gets this cold. It can be a little bit scary. But the school is really good about, like, canceling in snowy situations. And it's kind of, it makes for a relaxing day. If you have a snow day, it's kind of a nice day off. You get to see how beautiful it is outside. Everyone's a little more relaxed. If you're able to just stay inside, it's not that bad. Losing power, the town is pretty good about it. We typically don't have like crazy outages. So it's really not that bad. And you can get snow tires. There's things you can do too to be able to be in the snow and still be mobile. So it's not too bad. But everything you hear about mud season is true. Mud season is crazy. It's real. Thank you, everyone.
All right, thank you, Nate. And people are always amazed that that old church has apartments in it. And I'm like, I know someone who lives there.
Me too.
So very cool. Next up, we are gonna move now to Javana. So Javana, if you want to come on and tell us about your experience.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for taking some time to hear about us and the school. I am a third-year law school student, and I'm also doing the Master's of Restorative Justice at the school. I'm interested in practicing the intersectionality of family law, criminal law, and immigration law, while also implementing restorative justice principles while serving the clients that I hope to serve. And when it comes to why I chose VLGS, I had visited VLGS. Once, and I really liked the vibe. And VLGS gave me the best scholarship, so that kind of sealed the deal for me because law school is very expensive. When it comes to where I grew up in Queens, New York, the best borough. I see some people from New York, so glad to see New York represented. Like I said, the only time I had visited the state of Vermont was only to tour the school. So I toured it with my mom, and it I think it's very helpful to kind of just get a gauge as to where you may be spending the next amount of years that your degree is going to take. When it comes to my biggest worry about moving to Vermont, as a person of color, I came straight from undergrad and I came from a predominantly white institution. So I was entering a new state at the same time. So just like navigating how to I have a car, so registering your car and getting Vermont car insurance, things to just keep in mind. And then also just starting law school as the first person in my family, as a first gen American and first gen law school student, navigating taking out loans. For law school was my first time taking out loans. And so what was helpful was during orientation week, there's a lot of sessions that you're able to ask the questions to the adequate people and they're able to let you know about your options and things to keep in mind if you ever face any financial hardship during your time here. And then when it comes to what helped getting me acclimated, I saw a question in the chat and hopefully I answer some of it for Anne. Definitely building your community is very important. I was able to build my community by joining some organizations that align with my values or some identities that I hold. And I was able to find some of my good friends. And through that, every week we do like weekly potlucks, or we're really into reality TV shows. So like taking a break from law school and just gossiping about anything else. We watch shows together and stuff like that. And I think that's very important. And then even then, like during the week, if we know that one of us is having a hard day, I love boba. I'm a big foodie person. There's a bubble tea spot about like 25 minutes. So just taking that drive, and like Ellen said, there's no billboards. So you just see like a lot of greenery, and depending the season that we're in, it's a really nice drive. And then when it comes to the student groups I'm involved in, kind of emphasizing just the building community. I'm part of Women's Law Society, and some things that we do, we have our annual auction, we have vagina monologues, we host panels with different women in the different legal spaces as an opportunity for students to connect with them, and also just to provide a space for women in a predominantly male-dominated profession. I'm also an Albert Schweitzer Fellow, which is a fellowship designed to address a need that a fellow sees in regards to the broader aspect of health. And so I work with an organization in town to assist youth who are involved in the legal system who may be struggling with either physical, mental, or emotional health. I also am part of the Center for Justice Reform Clinic. In the Center for Justice Reform Clinic, we deal with immigration cases. And as of right now, we're doing expungements for clients. And being able to work at this clinic as a student clinician and advanced student clinician, I've been able to have the opportunity to present myself before a judge, file motions, file forms, and in a space that practices a client-centered approach. Excuse me. And then last year, I served as a co-chair of the Latinx American and Caribbean Law Student Association. Being part of this organization, you're able to host meetings and panel discussions and collaborate. Last year, we were able to collaborate with the cafe to bring some Latin dishes throughout Hispanic Heritage Month and collaborate with school organizations and local organizations to address the needs of our community. Last year, I was also able to be part of the Student Bar Association as a 2L senator and serve as a representative for your classmates. And lastly, the co-chair of the Community Events Diversity Subcommittee, which are able to work with faculty and staff to bring events to the community. And some of those are Taste of Culture and conversations with professors that many students may want to have a conversation with them, but they just never have a chance to have a class with them. So fostering that space for them to be able to do that. When it comes to housing, I definitely waited last minute. I would definitely not do that. But shout out to Katie Mural. She came in clutch and she assisted me in pairing me up with a roommate that was looking for a roommate. I live about like a 3-minute drive from campus, a 15-minute walk from campus. I kind of like being close, but not too close. And I live in the same apartment that I've lived since my 1L year. And I think it's very important that you consider whether or not you would like to live with somebody else and possibly save some more money, or live by yourself, but have like just, live on your own. So that's something to keep in mind. When it comes to needing a break, I love to travel. And like Ellen said, Burlington is about an hour and 20 minutes away. There's a lot more things to do there. Boston is a little longer, but there's also a lot of things to do. Montreal is also, if you're able to leave the country, also that. And then I'm from New York City. It's a 4.5 hour drive. I don't mind taking that on a weekend when I need a break. But other than that, it's like going out to eat with friends, or like I said, like having our weekly potlucks really comes in clutch. And how often leaving South Royalton? Like I said, mentioned, I would add that there is a BJ's about 20 minutes away from us, which can be, if you have a BJ's card, comes in clutch. They have BJ's gas here, and their gas is it's cheaper than other spots around. So something to keep in mind. My favorite place on campus is the library. Our librarians are amazing. They're really cool and they really care about your success, and they're always there. And we have some really cool spots in the library, and it really tends to the needs of what works for you. If you're more of a quieter person, or if you want lighting, you don't want lighting. So there's definitely a spot for you. And then lastly, a tip that I would say is that when you're looking into an apartment, when it comes to preparing for mud season and the snow, make sure you know what your apartment offers. Like there's a lot of dirt roads here, so keep that in mind. I like my apartment, plowing is included. I have a gravel road, so I don't really have to worry about that much. But there are some of my friends who their road is dirt, so it was a lot harder for them to get out. So just something to keep in mind. And if you guys have any questions, I'll put my email in the chat if you guys want to reach out after. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Javonna. I think we might be scaring people with mud season if that's something new that you've heard about. But it's definitely springtime happens here in the state. I will say there's also a Sierra, which is kind of like it's part of like the TJ Maxx family, but down in that West Lebanon area, and you can get some really great outdoor clothes and boots and things like that in that area. So if you need to stock up on your multiple layers, that's another key. But now we are going to move on to, let's see here, I think Isaiah is next.
Hi, everybody. My name is Isaiah Gonzalez. As Alan mentioned, I am currently a 3L student here on campus. I'm interested in immigration law, as well as criminal law and international human rights. And that's kind of the reason why I chose to come to VLGS, especially there's no other law school that truly has a mission to create lawyers for the world and the community and to create catalysts for change. And I really wanted a law school that had a social justice mission to it. And so that's ultimately why I chose to come to Vermont Law and Graduate School, as well as I had a friend from undergrad. I went to the University of California, San Diego, and they came here. So that was an easy transition to be able to come here and at least know somebody. And I grew up in California, so I know we had a question about moving across the country. it's a difficult transition, but you make it work. And it's a beautiful transition going from beaches and the California lifestyle to a much more calm living situation in Vermont. Um, and I did not visit Vermont Law School prior to coming here. I showed up the week before orientation with my two suitcases, and I was like, here we go. And that definitely was a culture shock, but I adjusted well. I had so admissions creates a Facebook group for a lot of the admitted students, and I had posted in there that my bus was getting to Lebanon and I really needed a ride because my friend at the time wasn't in town, and right away people were willing to pick me up. And so that's actually how I met one of my really good friends now. He picked me up and it was willing to bring me to town, and we had never met. So that truly speaks to the students that we have here on campus. There's a saying on campus, swans fly together. And so I think the community aspect of it, what folks were asking about, is truly present here. Everybody's here to help each other out, unlike other law schools. Um, what was my biggest worry about moving to Vermont and what helped acclimate me? Um, I think my biggest worry was the culture shock of it all, from moving from having grown up in a city in San Diego and in the Silicon Valley to coming to South Royalton was definitely an experience of I had never seen snow before until coming to Vermont. And so getting used to the New England lifestyle and also the people and the weather um, but you just make it work, and you involve yourself. I involved myself right away with the Latinx and Caribbean Law Student Association and also joined the SBA right away as a 1L. And so I think it's truly what you make of it, and just finding your community. I think the biggest thing is that you have somebody there to enjoy the ride of law school. And so I'm fortunate enough to be able to have friends that I made my 1L year to still have them today. Um, the student groups that I'm involved in. So I have the pleasure of serving as the Student Bar Association president, the first Latino to hold this position. And so what the Student Bar Association does is we are the ones that keep the funds for student groups. And so we allocate the funds to all student groups, as well as we hear any proposals from students that want to be brought forth before the Senate at large. And we also serve kind of as the medium between the students and the administration here on campus. And that's one thing that I really enjoyed about Vermont Law and Graduate School, is that the administration is open to speaking with their students. Having gone to a huge university to a smaller private university, I've enjoyed that, of being able to sit down and speak with the deans or the president of the law school and let them know of my concerns or just um, anything that I needed to bring up to them. They're super supportive with that. I also, last year, I served as one of the co-chairs for the Latinx Law Student Association. And with that organization, we had alumni panels and we had an event which focused on Latinx culture and raised money for a nonprofit here in Vermont that focuses on migrant and farm worker rights. So that was super important. I'm also the symposium editor for the Vermont Journal of Environmental Law. So that's a legal journal which students write a legal note on a novel topic that they're interested in. I was fortunate enough to write my topic on lithium mining and its effects on communities of color. And so journals really help with legal writing and also help with employment. A lot of employers right away will to look to see whether or not you were on a journal. And so if you have the opportunity, I would really recommend to join that. And this year's symposium, we're focusing it on climate justice and the impacts of climate change on communities of color. So that's on our events page on the Vermont Law and Graduate School website. So if you're interested in that, please join. We'll have a remote option for you all. And also, I can drop my email within the chat. Another thing that I'm part of is I am the co-chair for the diversity admission subcommittee. And so what we do is we focus a lot of our efforts to increase the number of underrepresented people to make sure that they're supported when they're admitted into law school and the graduate school. And last year we implemented a day in the life, which was focused on actually I was highlighted, and so I took the school's Instagram around campus and took them to First Branch Coffee and the cafe. So if you're interested in that, I believe that highlight is on the Vermont Law School Instagram, so you can go ahead and watch that and get a better idea of what town looks like. Um, the type of housing that I live in, I live in a single studio, and so I'm fortunate to live by myself. I actually also live on the only building on campus that is not affiliated with the school. I literally live right on campus. So when I walk out my door, you see the library. And admissions really helped out with this. Actually, Katie Merrill had emailed me and she said, I know you're not from here and you don't know how to drive in the snow, so I'm going to get you as close as possible to the law school. And so Katie really was helpful with that. In terms of when I need a break, what do I do and where do I go? I love spending time with my friends. There's a place or called Feast and Field. It's about 20 minutes away from here in Barnard, Vermont, which hosts live bands and different things like that. And so my friends and I like to go out there on Thursday evenings, especially as 3Ls. Most of us don't have classes on Fridays. So being able to unwind and do different things like that. And also, so the Student Bar Association in February hosts the Swan Ball. That's what people know as Barrister's Ball. It's like law prom almost, and that's held in Burlington. So Burlington is an absolute beautiful place. It's the big city of Vermont. So that's another area that I like to go to. And then um, how often do I leave South Royalton? I leave South Royalton almost every weekend. I love to explore and try out new coffee shops and thrift stores and just really get to know New England, whether it's going down to Rutland, Vermont, or Albany, New York, which is super close. And I just love coming from California, you don't have the luxury of states being so close next to each other. And so I love to be able to go to Boston, Massachusetts, and different things like that. So I highly recommend if you're fortunate enough to come to Vermont Law and Graduate School that you explore the area. And I go grocery shopping in West Lebanon. It's such a great area. A lot of Dartmouth students are around there as well. So highly recommend that. And my favorite place on campus, I would say, is the Multicultural Center. It's a center where a lot of our affinity groups hold events, as well as our diversity committee on campus. It's such a quiet place. The school just redecorated it, so there's art and different things like that for students just to come and de-stress and get away from main campus. Um, and so it's absolutely beautiful with big windows and different things like that. So I really enjoy it. Also, First Branch Coffee, you can find me there every morning. Their maple lattes, as I mentioned, are absolutely amazing. So if you're ever in town, I highly recommend making a stop there. And finally, one tip that I have about being prepared for a winter in Vermont is just to learn how to dress for the winters. Coming from California, I didn't have winter boots. I didn't have a winter coat. I'd never seen the snow. So highly recommend, like much of the panelists said, going to the thrift shops or going to Sierra. I actually got a winter coat from one of the thrift shops for a quarter. And so a lot of the thrift shops know that a lot of folks aren't from around here, and so they really want to help you out. And also, the Office of Student Affairs puts on a Vermont 101 at the beginning of the time that winter comes around. And so I highly recommend going to that as well. Thank you all.
Thank you, Isaiah. And for a quarter, that was a good deal. So from Isaiah coming from California, we're going to transition to another state now and move on to our next. Let's see, we can move on to Liliana from Texas, I believe. So I'll give it up for Liliana.
Yep. Hi, everyone. I see Hillary in the chat. I am also from Houston, Texas, and also someone else is from Texas, so yay. but I am currently a 2L, and I came to Vermont actually on the student tour. I know that I think it's still offered, so I definitely recommend visiting if you can. I came in April of the semester before I started law school, and it really just helps you get a good feel of the environment, the town, just understanding Vermont, because this was my first time being in the Northeast. So it was it's going to be different, especially if you're from Texas. Um, and so my worry or my biggest concern was really just staying on top of the readings, because as you know, law school is primarily just reading those giant textbooks. It's not like the movies. You're going to have to be really studious and on top of your study habits. So I went to the ASP a lot. It's the Academic Success Program, and basically they have all these study books where you can practice multiple choice questions. You can go over short answers, essays. So you have a lot of options for study tips, and they have TAs for your classes. There are some student tutors at the ASP. So that's a resource I definitely recommend that people use. And currently, I am in Women's Law Society. So, like many people have said, there are a lot of clubs here. So, I'm in three. I'm in Christian Law Fellowship, Women's Law Society, and the Latinx and Caribbean Law Student Association. And honestly, these clubs, I know it sounds like three is a lot, but really, the clubs are focused on making sure that you feel welcomed, that you have decompression events, and that you just have community overall. So, it's not like a large commitment. You're able to just show up, be yourself, and swap tips, swap what's going on in classes, and just relax with your friends. I decided to come to VLGS because I really liked the change. First of all, I wanted to go somewhere different, and Vermont is very different from Texas, as I've mentioned. And I like the natural aspect because there's so much nature around here and it's just beautiful. Like other panelists have mentioned, you can go hiking, biking, swimming, bird watching, um, ice skating, even in the town center. So there's options for you to really connect with nature. And I think that's very important for your mental health in law school, because you do need outlets so that you can not focus on law school 24/7. And on campus, I love to go to the Chase Center. That is one of the big meeting areas where a lot of students and the school, they host events. Like for Women's Law Society, we host panels and we do a lot of collaborations with other clubs here on campus. And like tomorrow, we actually have the Women's Law Society auction. It's a really big event. It's sleepover themed. So we have fun things like that coming up. And Chase Center is not as quiet as the library, but you're definitely able to have some silent areas if you want to study, but there's still some background noise, which is what I like. And you can also run into friends and just stop and chat with them, whether they're walking to class or just going to the cafe. And for me, I was able to luckily find housing in June. I do recommend checking in the summer because that's when a lot of the master's students or 3Ls start to head back home or go to other states. And so I recommend in the summer mostly. That way there's more options and you can check the housing portal frequently, because mine opened up and I snagged it immediately because those places do go fast. But luckily it's in town, and I recommend if you are not from the Northeast and you're not used to snow, you should try to get a place as close to campus as possible so you don't have to drive or walk pretty far. And for a break from studying, I basically just go to West Lebanon, like people have mentioned. I love checking out bookstores. There's a lot of them in Vermont and New Hampshire. For spring break, which was last week for Vermont law, my friends and I went to Boston, which is a little over 2 hours if you're driving. It's really close and super fun. It's like a big city that's not too far away. And I leave South Royalton basically every other weekend just for groceries. It's like a 20-minute drive to West Lebanon. It's not too far. I know 20 minutes might sound kind of crazy, especially for people in the city, but it really isn't that bad. And the roads are clear. If you're concerned about snow, they do plow the major freeways, they salt the roads, And on campus, building and grounds is really good at making sure that there's no snow or there aren't any places that you'll slip and you're able to just walk on campus safely. My last piece of advice is about being prepared for winter. So I'm not going to talk about mud season. It's really not as scary as people say it is, but it is something that you should be aware of, but that can be discussed later. But for snow, I'd say if you have a car, you definitely need snow tires. I know people think that's, common knowledge, but for me from the South, had no idea what that was. For walking around, you need snow boots. And like Isaiah mentioned, a good coat that is preferably waterproof so that it won't soak into your clothing, and some good gloves that can trap heat because even certain gloves can still let some cold through. So you want to make sure that you're insulated for the winter. So thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Liliana. And I don't think we mentioned, but the picture, it looks like, I'm guessing you're on Church Street and you had some Ben and Jerry's. Is that correct?
Yes, I was trying to have the full Vermont experience.
Yes. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. And we're moving on now to our last but not least. Wanted to throw a native Vermonter into the mix too to get, so I'm going to welcome Camille to talk about her experience.
Hello, everybody. I want to first answer Ellen's question about your favorite type of maple thing. I was going to comment it, and then I realized people might not know what it is. It's sugar on snow, which is a Vermont delicacy. It's where you put maple syrup on like shaved ice, or you take a scoop of snow and top it. It's like really delicious. It's one of my favorite things. So as Ellen mentioned, I am from Vermont. I am a 2L. And I just feel like I have so many things to talk about because I love this state so much. Clearly, I have chosen to stay in it. A couple people have mentioned community. That has been one of my favorite things about my law school experience is being a native Vermonter. You very quickly learn that community has like a whole nother meaning here where you really can ask anyone for help and they are 9 out of 10 times willing to do whatever they can. And the one time they can't, it's because they're unable to, not that they don't want to. A lot of people have mentioned First Branch. I love going there after class because I know a lot of people who work there now because they see me frequently. So I walk in and they're like, "You want your usual?" And I just adore it. In terms of housing, I've had a couple different housing experiences, which I'm happy to speak on. My first year, I did not live near campus or in town. I was about a 15-minute drives on the back roads. And as someone who grew up living on these dirt roads, I was like, oh, it will be okay. This is a friendly reminder, I think Javonna mentioned earlier. Do you always ask what the road maintenance looks like? Because even though that our driveway was plowed and our road was plowed during mud season, I was on top of a very tall hill. It got very muddy, very rutty, and I ended up moving just because even though I knew how to drive, I was like, I don't want that extra stress. So law school brings you like a lot of new challenges, so it's really important to find ways to balance that. A lot of people have talked about what they like to do to balance it. I love to go outside. I think a lot of people who are from Vermont love to do that. There's so much to do here. There's hiking, there's mountain biking. Someone asked a question about that. I grew up mountain biking. There's a lot of really cool places here to do that. There's Blueberry Lake, which is this gorgeous little pond, and then they have different trails for cross-country skiing and mountain biking. There's Essex Junction, which has more mountain biking trails. If you don't like to mountain bike, but just like to regular bike, Burlington has a gorgeous bike path that goes across pretty much the whole city and across Lake Champlain. You can bike across a portion of it, I believe, and it's just gorgeous. Let's see. I'm running out of my little things. Oh, okay. Clubs and student groups. I am the president of the First Generation Law Student Association, and this group really means so much to me. What it is it's a group of students who are the first in their family to go to law school, and I find that it is an incredible way to build community because the entire purpose of it is to form connections. So students who go to law school who have had family members that are lawyers or attorneys they have that person they can call up and ask questions. And that can be a huge help, especially as you're trying to figure out like what the blue book is or what type of law that you want to do. And so we really try to connect people to different attorneys, to each other. I have ended up asking a lot of my peers or even people that we've met through the organization just about their life experience, which is another reason why I love the school, is because even though it's so small, there's like a lot of opportunities and a lot of people are willing to sit down and spend the 10 or 15 minutes of their day to talk to you about their experiences. And then in terms of the opportunities, there's so much you could do. You could do clinic. There's a lot of travel opportunities. Over spring break, I went to Trento, Italy for my Law of the EU class, which was really wonderful and such a great experience. And then, oh gosh, from there, there's just so many. I'm like, Ellen, there's too many things. I'm like looking at all the student ambassadors as well, and like Liliana, Isaiah, and Nate and Giovanna. I feel like all of them are so wonderful and are just like a shining beacon example of the type of students that we have, where everybody is so kind and caring and has such deeply held interests that they're so passionate about. It's like such an incredible learning environment where I feel like every day I get inspired not only by maybe some of the material we're covering, but also sometimes comments in class and from speaking to my friends on projects that they're working on. There's just so many ways to learn. I think some people mentioned their favorite spots on campus, and mine has to be, I think it's the Dean Jefferson Art Gallery, which is on the way to the library. That's a great space because there's one permanent art, which is all these like really cool sticks. I'm not going to describe it in a way that makes sense, so you'll have to come and see it. But they're cool sticks that hang from the wall and they're fun to touch. But along all the other walls, it's local artists and students and community members will put together different displays. And it's one of my other favorite ways to take a break during the day is to go and look at the art there. All right. And I think that's it. I feel like I've said a lot.
Awesome. Thank you, Camille. Definitely, I love the art gallery also. And the sticks are all like maple saplings that were hand carved. Really cool. Definitely something to check out. And I was going to mention one other mountain biking area, the Kingdom Trails in the Northeast Kingdom. Definitely worth a check out if you're into mountain biking. But you guys all, I think mentioning the student ambassadors, we kind of breezed over that, but you as a group are all part of our student ambassador group, and we are so appreciative of all the work you do to help our prospective and admitted students, as well as our current student body as well. But we are going to move on right now. I'm going to quickly share just a couple slides. We talked a lot about housing portal, off-campus housing. So I'm just going to tell you a little bit about that, and then I'm going to take the slideshow down and we'll open it up to Q&A. And you're definitely welcome to, when we get to that point, if you want to raise your virtual hand and unmute yourself, we can definitely have you ask questions or continue to type them in the chat. But the couple things to mention about the housing portal. So after this, you will be not only getting anyone who's registered or attended today for this webinar, you'll be getting a recording of the webinar. I saw someone asked about that. And then we'll also send you a link directly to what I'm about to show you, as well as the passcode, the password to create a guest profile to get into the portal. So keep an eye on your email. You'll be receiving those within the next 24 hours or so. So these two slides for the housing portal, as we've talked about already today, all of the housing is off-campus housing. Our school doesn't own any housing that we are directly working on. We will definitely work within the portal and helping students like other, I know, Isaiah had mentioned Katie Merrill, our Dean of Admissions. We all here kind of keep an eye out on what's on the portal to help students, but it definitely is. This is your first stop shop to kind of start to get acquainted with what is on the portal. So this first slide is just showing you that this is when we send you the link. This is what you will come to. It's a guest registration, and we'll give you that password to go into the portal. On this next screen, this is just one small screenshot of what you will start to see within the portal. But those two things that you're really going to be coming here for, one, to be looking at all of the available listings, and then two, there is that roommate search section, which is another way, beyond the Facebook group, if you're looking to put your profile up for a roommate search, that is also available within the portal. But basically, when you are in the portal, there is a map that you can scroll in and scroll out, and it will start to show available apartments in the area. Then each apartment will have a listing, what you see on the right side, that you can click open, see more pictures of each of the housing available, and you're just able to then see pricing, what's included. So it's a really great resource to be able to start that process. We do see mostly in April is when the majority of that inventory is going on to the portal as people are making decisions. The 3Ls are leaving, students are shifting around. So now is a good time to start the process of getting in there, but really kind of keeping an eye on things with the portal over the next couple months. But I am going to, I believe that is our last slide here. So what we're going to do is we have a few minutes left. This was great. We had such good conversations already. But and I do see that we've had a lot of great questions that have already been answered in the chat. But if you guys have any other questions that haven't been answered yet, we are definitely happy to answer any other questions for any of the specific panelists or in general. And if you want to unmute and ask, you're welcome to do that as well. All right. Nice. I will mention also while we're waiting if there are any other questions. So we do have additional webinars coming up. So we will definitely also put additional webinars in that information that we send out after today's session. And you are also welcome to connect with myself if you want to do any of the information about visiting the state. I'm happy to help in any information about kind of your actual campus visit. I'm the one to kind of help you arrange that. And you might even have one of our student ambassadors as your guide for your tour portion. But it doesn't look like any other questions are really coming in. So I think that it does look like one last one here. Is there a Facebook group already made for enrolling 1Ls? And there is, we can definitely get you that information. We'll make a note of that and get that over to you, Noah. But thank you, panelists. Thank you all for joining us today. Definitely appreciate your time, and hopefully we'll see you in Vermont soon. Have a good day.